I now have perspective and context on this answer from Hilary Clinton about being open to being Barack Obama's vice presidential candidate. Listen to this. The longer write-through. Associated Press normally first sends one sentence. Then it gets its act together, writes out the longer version, and sends that. We've just gotten it. Dateline Washington from Associated Press. Hillary Clinton has told congressional colleagues that she would be open to becoming Barack Obama's vice presidential nominee, saying she would consider it if it would help Democrats win the White House. Well, they've been making the case that you need her states, the places where she's been strong, to win the White House for weeks and weeks and weeks. Excuse me. President Clinton has gone so far as to say she's the better candidate to win because of the demographics that she attracts. So that context is important. Colleagues have told colleagues that she'll be open to becoming Barack Obama's vice presidential nominee, saying she would consider it if it would help the Democrats win the White House. Seems to me, Fraser Seitel, hasn't she already, through all of her campaigning, there's more to this, and I'll read the rest of it, but hasn't she been saying all along, I help, I help, I help? Hasn't that been the message?
Yeah, she has.
So she's already decided
this is a huge leap. But I mean, think about what she's doing. You know, Carl said throwing sand in the gears of Obama. She's throwing sand in the gears of the Democratic Party. This is supposed to be his night. What she's doing is she's trying to dictate terms to make it her night. It is absolutely outrageous, and she ought to clarify it tonight when she concedes.
Well, if others see it, then that's his personal opinion, Fraser Seitel, obviously, here as an analyst. If others see it that way, and that was not the intention, I'm quite sure she will clarify it. If it was the intention, maybe something else. Moving on with the rest of the context from the Associated Press now. Clinton, a New York senator, made the comment on a conference call with other New York lawmakers Tuesday, according to a participant in the call. Now, the Clinton camp, the Obama camp, the McCain camp, they all have conference calls with reporters all the time to tell us where they are in the campaign and what's happening going forward. This is the sort of thing that almost never airs on television or on the radio or anywhere else, with some exceptions. But she also has these conversations with lawmakers, especially lawmakers from her own delegation, in this case, from the New York delegation. So she's a New York senator, she's talking to other lawmakers, and a participant in the call has told this to Associated Press. Now, the senator's remarks come in response to a question from a Democratic representative who said she believed that the best way for Obama to win over the key blocs, including Hispanics, would be for him to choose Clinton as his running mate. So one of her colleagues said, would you be open in the context of winning Hispanic voters? Now, remember what happened over the weekend. Senator Clinton won in resounding fashion by more than a 2-to-1 margin Puerto Rico over Senator Obama. And part of the talking points on the heels of that big win in Puerto Rico, and I believe 25 delegates out of Puerto Rico, was Hispanics have largely come around Senator Clinton, that Senator Clinton is the candidate for the Hispanic voters. And the fastest growing segment of voters in the United States is Hispanics, as they continue to move here in droves. And Senator Clinton responded to the question from this other representative, quote, I am open to it if it would help the party's prospects in November. Major Garrett, with all of the rest of this added, the context of it being a question from one of her colleagues, do you glean anything else from this?
A couple of things, Shepard. Yes, the contextual question to Senator Clinton begs an answer, but it doesn't necessarily beg this answer. Hillary Clinton could say, look, that's an interesting question. I'll do whatever it takes in whatever capacity I am asked to serve this party and serve our eventual nominee. She didn't need to concede that Obama would be the nominee. She could just say, I'll do whatever it takes. Those are going to be the decisions made by the eventual nominee of the party. All I'm saying is that there were different ways that Hillary Clinton could have answered that question without injecting herself so rapidly into this conversation about the vice presidential running mate for Barack Obama. The other thing I would say is that there are some very basic complicating factors here in the simple vetting process of any potential running mate with Barack Obama. And let me just highlight one, Shepard. And I went back over this with the Obama campaign last week just to be sure this card was still on the table. The Obama campaign has said throughout that they want Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton to release all of the data about the Bill Clinton Foundation and the Clinton Library in Arkansas. All the donors, all the information should be on the public record. I asked them last week, is that still the case? They said absolutely. That would be question option one for Hillary Clinton at the beginning of the vetting process? Would you be willing to put all that on the table so we could begin the vetting process? If she answers no to that, this thing's over. I mean, that's just one of many considerations, both practical, political, and transparent, that would fit within the Obama approach to choosing any running mate. That's how it would fit in the Clinton world. In particular, that's how it's going to fit with all potential running mates in general. So I just want to highlight that one example, that yes, there are a lot of political reasons why this is talked about, but there are practical reasons why there are barriers to it.
Major Garrett, live with us. Major, thanks very much. I want to get back to Carl Cameron. A couple of things I guess are possible here, Carl. If you are so inclined, you could look at this and say, this is absolutely nothing. Of course Hillary Clinton believes she can be of help. Of course she's going to decide whether, going to talk with experts and others in the party to decide whether this would be a good thing for the ticket or a not so good thing for the ticket. She's just speaking truth at a time when truth should be spoken, or she just injected herself into this for purely selfish reasons, or somewhere in between. Right.
It's all that's all true, Shep. It's also worth noting that for the past 2.5 months, much of the political discourse has been about Democratic candidates and Democratic policies and what's politically palatable for Democrats. It isn't going to be just about Democrats after tonight. It's going to be about Republicans and independents in a much larger degree. And to the extent that Barack Obama represents the first black nomination for the presidency of any major party, that is a major leap forward in American politics. To add a woman to that ticket, some might suggest on its face it's more than a lot of American voters might be willing to countenance once they get into the booth. Everybody talks about they're perfectly okay with the idea of a female president, perfectly okay with an African-American or a black president. The question is, as a twosome, how will that play with some swing voters? And it's a small percentage in the polls, but there have been some data that suggests that there would be objections to that. So there are political realities to whether or not it would be a good political marriage to contemplate as well.
All right, Carl Cameron, thanks very much. So the news breaking in just the last few minutes, Hillary Clinton has now told New York lawmakers and others that she is open to the idea of being Barack Obama's vice presidential candidate. More news is breaking. Did you hear that noise? That noise means there's an urgent bulletin coming in. As it turns out, we knew this one before it crossed on the wires. This one is from former President Jimmy Carter, who is set to endorse Barack Obama as the Democratic nominee. This from Carter's office. That we've been told for the last hour or so will be coming tonight. For one thing, what does an endorsement from Jimmy Carter do for Barack Obama? Exactly. We'll get into that. We don't know for sure that it's coming. We know his office says it'll happen tonight, but it hasn't happened yet. More importantly, what is this trial balloon from Hillary Clinton? I am open to being Barack Obama's vice presidential nominee. Does this change the rest of the day? Is everyone looking to see if Hillary Clinton is now trying to hijack or just saying the obvious? We have breaking news coverage coming next on Studio B.